Hey, welcome back. We are back from a little bit of a break. Obviously, we had, what was it, Canadian Day. We had
July 4th. Yeah.
July 4th in the States. We had Election Day in the UK. So it was kind of just the time for holidays. Hope everybody had an awesome break. But we're back and we are super, super excited to be talking about games. It's July too, which is fucking crazy.
Sure, it's going by quick.
Yeah. Wanted to give a quick shout out to my boys. For those who didn't know, last week was my birthday, and the boys came through. I am the Keyblade Master. Over the next few episodes, you guys are probably going to start seeing some updates to, how things look in the background here, and I'm going to want to get those displayed and get some other stuff, which I think is really cool, and you can see a little bit of Power Rangers helmet and stuff back there. Obviously, I got to get on Dash's and Eric's levels, so.
For what? I mean, I only have like two flags in a picture.
Hey, I just yeah.
I need to get more autographs. That's the goal. That section is going to be reserved for autographs from previous guests. So, gotta just keep building it up. But Streamily is like $60 per one.
I mean,
so
that's not though. I guess that's not like the worst price,
not.
Especially
gotta support the
and it goes to those people. So that's pretty awesome. But we, as I mentioned, obviously we've been gone for a minute, so we've been playing some games over the last few weeks. Some we've talked about a little bit, some we haven't. One game that is on all of our lists, so we'll touch on it a little bit. We're going to talk about it more after we kick these episodes off with what are you playing. So that's how we're going to go ahead and start this episode off right now. Dash, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Let's start off with the quick one, which will be a bit more infection-free zone. So didn't really do anything too exciting except probably accomplishing the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do in that game, which was defeating the military. I was like, okay, I got a bunch of squads loaded up with shotguns and assault rifles, so this shouldn't be too hard. But they come in like a armored truck tank kind of thing, and it just starts shredding through all my squads, even if they're in a building. So I'm as my squads are dying, I'm just creating more squads in the headquarters, just slowly bringing down that truck until it was finally taken care of. But hey, I got that achievement unlocked, and it's one of the rare achievements for the game. So I'm never doing that again because I've lost so many people doing it. A lot of those achievements are bugged though, because I did one where it was like go 24 days without even building a wall, and didn't get the achievement by day 25. I think I did the same thing with like not even growing your own food, having to go like 50 days only eating scavenged food, get to that 50-day mark, and I didn't even get the achievement. So hopefully they get those bugs fixed eventually, so I can I'm not going to waste my time doing these challenges if they're not even going to reward me with the achievement for it. A lot more Kingdom Hearts 2. So let's see, last time I left off right before Zenith, so it's been all the optional shit still. Got pretty much all the mini games with the high score required. Did all the mushrooms. Got 2 of the 13 data replica fights. Defeated Sephiroth. So pretty much besides doing those data replica fights and Lingering Will, that's the only thing stopping me from my full completion for Kingdom Hearts 2.
Let's go.
Picked up Dragon Age Inquisition where I left off from 3 years ago, so that I can get my perfect world state ready for Veilguard, because we know that's coming this year, and I want to be prepared.
Oh yeah.
But I'm as the news came out about Veilguard, I realized how much I'm gonna appreciate the fact that that game is going to be linear. It's going to be more mission oriented, because as we've discussed before, some of these open areas in Inquisition are a slog to replay through. So, like, I appreciate more the areas like what is it, Caro Field or whatever. It's like more condensed, linear kind of areas where there's not as much open area, because I just did the Hissing Fields the other day, and that's just big, expansive desert area, like no pathing whatsoever, basically just hard. You have to like kind of zigzag through it just to make sure you don't miss anything. But it's like I can replay Dragon Age Origins so easily because it's a more linear experience, right? So it's easier to get through. But yeah, I'm really starting to realize why I have only played Inquisition one time fully before this, and it's not really well. I mean, I guess if you have the patience to replay Inquisition, that's you know, I'm one of those completionists, so I have to do everything. I know like some people on the replays probably skip a bunch of stuff, but for me, I can't. It's just kind of something ingrained in my mind. I have to do everything each time. But I mean, Inquisition definitely has BioWare's best party members, like overall, I would say. And I'm hoping to see if Veilguard beats that. And the final game that I've really been putting a lot of time in is the First Descendant, which is the pretty much probably the new big free to play game that just came out last week, which we can dive in a bit more into later because I know all of us at least have tried that one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and just for anybody who's listening, Dragon Age Inquisition, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Origins are all on sale right now on Steam as part of the summer sale. Each game $2.99, except I think Inquisition is $3.99. So they're all 90% off. You're not really going to get a better deal for games that are like that expansive.
No,
So
I mean you're especially going to get like at least 100 hours just out of Inquisition,
yeah,
and the other like Dragon Age 1 Origins and actually Origins you probably get a good 100 hours out of too, but Dragon Age 2 is probably like the shortest of all the games.
so Eric, what about you, man? What have you been playing?
So I actually was able to get a decent amount of stuff in. I retreaded myself to Crusader Kings 3.
Ooh.
It's on Steam Summer Sale, so I liked it so much on Game Pass that I bought it. And I even bought
Wow.
DLCs that I didn't get to play through Game Pass that are really good. There's tours and tournaments, so it makes you like, if you're a realm leader, you can go on a tour of your realm to try to build a relationship with your vassals and keep them from maybe rebelling against you, make friends, maybe get rid of potential rivals and things like that. And then it makes the whole tournament system way better. It's not just a joust. There's actually like melees. There's poetry writing. There's actual joust, like there's jousting and everything like that. It's some of them are pretty well done. There's royal court as well for a DLC where you can actually hold court for peasants to come and beckon to your small lords for like, we want more land, so this person should be our vassal, but they don't want to do it. And so, I mean, of course, I ran the Game of Thrones mod. I won't play with anything else. Maybe there's a Lord of the Rings mod, which I might try out. I've heard it's pretty good. But right now, I'm having fun. I started in Robert's Rebellion because I think that's probably my favorite point to start so far. I played during the War of the Nine Penny Kings. It was okay. There's a couple more sub mods you can download that I need to test out. One's Dance of Dragons, and they're actually putting dragons into the game, so you can actually own pet dragons and things like this. But I actually took a different turn. Instead of siding with our boy Bobby B, Lord and Savior, I decided to help Rhaegar. So I helped Rhaegar defeat Robert at the Trident. He won, killed Robert, and then deposed his father and took control of the Seven Kingdoms. And then, but it was kind of uneventful. We didn't have any fighting for 30 years. Nobody wanted to fight each other. So I just said, all right, fuck, let me scrap this. And
Peace in the realm.
I'm going to restart and cause chaos, I guess, again.
Rhaegar the Peaceful, apparently.
Yep. Played some more Valorant, of course. Had to get it in with the boys. That's our Friday night game night. And then actually got in some more Starfield. Played a good bit of the... I redid some of the temples. I downloaded a temple mod that makes going through the temples like 30 seconds to a minute shorter, so you don't have to fly all around as much. You just hit like 2 or 3 of those little... I guess it's like little light patterns that you hit, and it makes the wheel spin. It's a really goofy mechanic. I really hate it.
It's just something to do, I guess. It's not even like a puzzle.
It's not a puzzle. Yeah, it's not even a puzzle. It's just like, oh, let me just fly to this thing. But it was more of a nuisance than anything. And so this limits that and makes them a lot more bearable. A couple of spaceship mods. So of course, I've tinkered in the spaceship modifier for once for longer than 10 minutes because it didn't aggravate me for once. And so That's kind of how I rounded it all out. Played a little bit more than I was able to usually.
And also played the First Descendant as well.
Yes, I played that as well. We're gonna talk about that a little more at the end of the show.
Yeah. So I've been playing. I talked about a game, Still Wakes the Deep. I finally finished it. I've been playing it in increments, so I finally got around to finishing it. It's awesome. Literally can't say enough good things. Dash, would you call it an indie game? Like, it's made. I feel like made by a major studio, so I don't necessarily know that it would count. It's made by the team who makes Amnesia, so I don't.
Well, they did A Machine for Pigs. They didn't do like the core Amnesia games, I believe. So
yeah, so and this is made by the Chinese Room is the developer. So if this is indie game, I would absolutely put it up for indie game of the year. It's awesome, and even if it's not, it's in my top 3 right now for new games this year. So absolutely would recommend. A game that I don't know that I've ever talked about on the pod is Red Dead Redemption 1. I have never beaten Red Dead Redemption 1. I know what happens. I've seen videos and the like, but I bought the game and I'm actually going through and playing it now since there's a PS4, PS5 version. Ended up finding it physical and I was like, you know what, this is a good deal. Let's go ahead and let's dive in. And it's a lot of fun. There are some mechanics like the fast travel is kind of annoying because you have to camp and then choose your place instead of just pulling up the map and click on where you want to go. That's a little annoying, but the combat still feels really good. And for being a PS3 game, it still looks pretty fucking good. Like I'm kind of surprised at how good it looks. There's probably a good bit of upscaling that went on with creating this like PS4, PS5 version, and it runs at 60 frames per second, which is really nice.
I think I've even seen people say, like the Red Dead community say, like the gunplay is a bit better in Red Dead Redemption 1 versus 2.
Nice, yeah. I'm kind of surprised. But I have played Red Dead Redemption 2, so it is kind of fun to see these characters that you do get to know pretty well, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is a prequel to the first game. So just the whole Bill Williamson thing, like they've talked about Dutch, and I know that he's going to show up a little bit later in the game. Just exciting to kind of see. And obviously John Marston is a really great protagonist. From a voice acting perspective, he's great. And they just create a really well-rounded character, you know, someone who has been on the other side of the law, who's just truly trying to become a better man. So Rockstar is typically really good at creating their protagonists and just creating not necessarily good guys, but guys that are fully fleshed out in terms of their character arcs. So played a good bit of that, played a little bit more of MLB The Show, but I finally ended. I just wanted to complete one full season with my guy in the majors, broke the home run record, broke the RBI record, broke the hits record. My team was really shitty though. I played for the Chicago White Sox. We did not make the playoffs, even though I broke all these fucking records. It was so infuriating. And that's baseball for you. So
you just sitting on the bench and you're doing the simming and you're just seeing like everybody strike out, or
my pitcher fucking gives up 10 runs every game. It was awful. But I'm taking a break from it now because at this point for sports games, I'm just prepping myself for college football 25 because it's coming. And then lastly, I picked up a Stellar Blade for my birthday. And so I played just a little bit of that. Really excited to dive more into that. Also picked up Liza P, which I'll hopefully be adding into this playlist here pretty soon. If you're a fan of Bloodborne, definitely scratches that itch quite a bit. So really excited for that. But Dash, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I wasn't really going to say anything. But I guess I could mention I did pick up Disco Elysium. Haven't played it yet, but I always heard so many great things about it. It was literally like $4 because of the Steam sale. So might as well.
I actually own it as well. Have not. I played it a little bit. This was a few years ago, but I've heard a lot of comparisons to Baldur's Gate in terms of like being like a just extremely well-rounded RPG. So
yeah, it really relies on the dice rolling mechanics, kind of like Baldur's Gate, and also like there's some really wacky ways that you can die. Like I think you can die from sitting in a chair. Someone said like there's a way that you can set up like you lose 2 HP from sitting in this chair if you roll bad or something like that. So if you make sure you have low enough health, you can just die in this chair.
So Yeah, no, that's I'm excited to hear more about that hopefully next week. But we have a decent bit of gaming news because it's been a little bit since we last brought on to the pod, but also, I mean, it's been a little bit heavier, which is great because for the last few weeks, it's honestly been pretty light in terms of gaming news, aside from when they're doing conferences and things of that nature. So, first of all, Concord, which was a game that was shown at the PlayStation Showcase, to very lukewarm reception, is getting its first beta this upcoming weekend. If you pre-order, apparently you get 5 beta codes. A buddy of mine did go ahead and pre-order, and so I'll be taking part in that this weekend, which is going to be really exciting. Um, I am. I'm trying to go in with an open mind because a lot of people really shit on the game when it first got shown, especially compared to some of the other things that were shown, like at the PlayStation Showcase. And I think PlayStation really wanted Concord to be like one of the highlights. So this is Firesprite's first game since being acquired by PlayStation. It's big Overwatch meets Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, and if done right, that could be a lot of fun. We're seeing a lot of multiplayer games. Obviously, Helldivers has achieved insane success this year, and it wasn't necessarily people weren't expecting it to be the hit that it is, but here we are, obviously 6 months later, and it's one of the biggest games of the world for this year. But I'm excited to take part. But that's not going to be the only beta because there is an upcoming open beta that everybody will be able to go ahead and take part in. One thing that is interesting just about PlayStation's strategy is they will be co-launching this on both PlayStation and PC, which they've announced that that's what they're going to do for all of their like multiplayer titles going forward, which I think is a great idea. We'll have to see if it leads to more success to where maybe they'll speed up that time frame of putting some of their single player games. Obviously, Ghost, Horizon, The Last of Us, those games took quite a while to kind of shimmy their way on over to PC. I think we're still waiting on The Last of Us Part 2, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I don't think that's on PC.
But it's rumored to be coming. I think that's the next game kind of in line, and Ragnarok just barely, I think, was the most recent release. So
how many months did it take for Part 1 remake to make it to PC? Because it was like six-ish months, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that. And that's probably the shortest time frame we've had, but it's also a remake of a 10-year-old game. So it's neither here nor there. But definitely just some exciting news. We're excited to see what Concord, can potentially produce because more good games is never a bad thing for anybody.
Yeah, I think some of the media at least have gotten like early playtesting involved with it, and they've gotten their impressions. Like, it's not. They didn't say it was amazing. There's good to it. There's bad to it. Like, I've seen it compared to, it has the hero mechanics of Overwatch, but the kind of like the gunplay of Destiny. They said,
yeah.
So that could be a good combo, especially. They said like there's not like team comps or anything like that where you have to have 2 tanks, 2 healers, and like most of the game modes are kind of like search and destroy, so it's 1 life.
Yeah.
So there's some balancing issues with some of these heroes because of that. So we'll see how. I think the core mechanic here is it's going to emphasize teamwork.
Well, and that's not the only thing that's going to be introducing a new beta, and even of that kind of Overwatchy style. We've got Marvel Rivals also incoming, which is going to be doing an open beta. I think it's going to be a free-to-play game as well, if I understand correctly. So that I think that a lot of companies saw Overwatch 2 launch and got really excited, and they, started kind of creating their own, version of this in their own game. And my hope is that they learn from the failures of Overwatch 2, because
there's a lot they can capitalize on there. Because the only question mark here is going to be that $40 price tag if people want to justify it for Concord at this point.
Because they were for Helldivers. So I think that that's a very approachable price tag, especially just for, primarily a multiplayer game. But if you have people to play with, they'll pick it up. So
as long as they support it strongly, like kind of like Helldivers has been.
Yeah, exactly. And what's been very cool about Helldivers is just how open and transparent they've been about kind of that whole development process. So We're
Still
excited
waiting
to
on
see
the
Illuminate to show up.
I would have thought it would have happened by now.
I feel like I think they'll kind of wait until the game starts to dip in popularity a little bit, and then they can kind of use it as a means to bring people back into the
I
environment.
like how there's like some of those media outlets out there doing the clickbait articles, like Helldivers has lost 90% of its population since launch and stuff like that. And they're kind of like trying to frame it like it's dying. It's just like that's normal for most games, unless you're like Minecraft, Fortnite, Call of Duty. You're not maintaining hundreds of thousands of players daily.
Yeah, it's just not practical. So, in addition to Concord, Marvel Rivals, obviously Elden Ring has been kind of sweeping everything under the rug over the last few weeks. I've seen so many clips. Finally beat Elden Ring. I don't know if I mentioned. I think I did that actually. I don't know how I missed that. I am finally the Elden Lord. I beat this stupid fucking game. It is so hard. I'm not gonna buy the DLC because it is so hard.
Did you do like Malaya or anything like that?
I didn't. I thought that was the last boss. I thought that was required. No, I did not. So, but I didn't start a new game plus, so I can just dive right back in. I've actually been helping other people with some of their bosses since, so it's a little bit of a way for me to grind some runes and also give back because I was helped out quite a bit on my lead up to becoming Elden Lord. So the reason we're bringing up Elden Ring is because George R.R. Martin may have kind of spilled the beans. Apparently, he wants to literally work on anything else but Winds of Winter. To Eric's dismay.
What a fucking asshole.
I actually just started rereading A Game of Thrones, so I'm going to work my way through the books again.
It's so good.
And I'm reading Fire and Blood right now. So
Fire and Blood's fantastic as well.
It is awesome. It's also very cool just to see something from a Maester's point of view. Like, this is what we believed happened, and this is what we have, like, an official record. Also, why don't we have any, like, legitimately good Game of Thrones games?
It would work great. Like, we have the Crusader Kings 3, but I would say, like, a Total War game for Warhammer would be, or Game of Thrones would be amazing. Or just, they had only that Telltale game, and then they had like the RPG game.
Yeah,
all the Game of Thrones, like the Game of Thrones mod for Bannerlord 2 is incredible. There was a great Medieval 2 Total War mod called Westeros Total War. All were great. They just will do anything but give us the games.
But just give us an actual Game of Thrones game.
Not the bullshit mobile games that y'all advertise before and after the show. Fuck you.
All the pay-to-win bullshit, like, once you get out the tutorial of, like, Game of Thrones Conquest, you're just going to get destroyed by someone 20 levels higher than you as they keep sending armies to destroy your base.
Yeah, fuck that.
Well, and so, again, the reason we're bringing this up is because there's apparently an Elden Ring movie in the works. I'm intrigued by the idea because Elden Ring works because in the typical FromSoft way of telling a story, not everything is like super transparent. It is you find out lore from like items in game, you find it from like random NPCs, and you kind of piece together a lot of it yourself. There is cutscenes and there is certain things like you get to see burning down the Erd Tree and becoming Elden Lord. But it's like a lot of people who, may not be super familiar or may not have, dived into every single little thing may not understand that story so much. So that idea, I think that George R.R. Martin being involved is very interesting because I would wonder if he would obviously be writing, on that project. I would assume so, as he apparently had a pretty large hand in at least creating some of the lore behind Elden Ring. Even if he didn't necessarily work on like the main story itself.
I'm pretty sure he named all the characters.
Yeah, so there's.
It would work better, in my opinion, as an anime Demon Slayer style, where it's just multiple episodes at a time, focusing on one monster.
I would say
that's a really good idea.
A prequel would probably work best. Give us the backstory of like the rise of Gideon or whatever.
Yeah.
The night of Fallen Knives or whatever that was, where they assassinated. I can't. It start like
Is
you
it
got
Godfrey?
Gideon, Godfrey, Gideon, Gwendian. Like there's. Yeah,
Too many G's.
you have all the G's and you have all the R's, like Radon, Renala, and then the M's,
R'hllana,
Mikola, and
Millennia.
Melania.
Yeah, it's yeah. Apparently, Trump's wife is going to make a visit too. So
And the ever loathsome Dung Eater.
yeah, so it's in the works, and honestly, Elden Ring, it could work. I mean, make a sweet fantasy movie, I'll be there. Like, I'm not gonna complain about getting more, video game IPs into stuff like this. But it's not the only movie in the works right now. Kind of out of left field, we got some showing on social media that Watch Dogs officially has a movie like in development. They're in production right now. They're already shooting it. I have no idea who's going to star in this movie. I have literally no idea about anything. I've never even played a Watch Dogs game, so I literally could not tell you anything.
It's a little. I mean, it's. Oh wait, are we talking? I was thinking not Watch Dogs, Sleeping Dogs. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, wait.
Watch Dogs is about like hackers.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, so I it's a Ubisoft game, and I don't play a ton of Ubisoft.
Apparently, this has been in development since 2013.
Yeah, so this is all I gotta ask.
Yeah,
it's not an Bowl movie, is it?
No. Do you know that he's like really defensive about his movies too? I watched a video on it recently that he is like he really takes offense, and he boxed people who were like really pissed at his movies. Yeah, like what a big weenie. Anyway,
Bowl, I will box you just for ruining Far Cry.
So Elden Ring, obviously in the works. In addition, Dash and I were incredibly, incredibly pleased to hear that the director of Resident Evil 7 is going to be helming Resident Evil 9. And that is great. Resident Evil 7 is obviously a huge return to form after 5 and 6 had a much more like action-focused gameplay. I wouldn't mind ditching first person and just, going that traditional Resident Evil 2, 3, 4 remake over-the-shoulder camera style. I think
feel
it
like
works so well.
I think first person was specifically for Ethan Winters, and with his story being done, I don't think they're gonna do it for 9. Which the rumor is we might be getting like Leon and Jill as protagonists in this.
Which that's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
That House of Dragon, all these armies are fighting, dragons are killing each other, and Damon's just in a Resident Evil movie. Running around haunted ass Harrenhal, just like, what the fuck's going on?
A haunting of Harrenhal.
Hey, you know what? It'd make a good horror setting. You make a horror movie based in a Song of Ice and Fire about Harrenhal.
Heck, that's what I would like to see for like the first night or whatever, and you could see like the whole thing with the giant spiders that the White Walkers rode on and stuff like that.
They had that pilot made. It had like Naomi Watts in it, and then it was apparently just so bad that they were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna."
They spent like $30 million on one
and that's
episode.
Where House of the Dragon came from, as they pivoted and went to House of the Dragon.
My vote is for Aegon's Conquest next. I think you'd have to do it as like a mini series. Don't try to stretch it out just into too much. It's only a 2-year period. But just give me more and more from Westeros.
You're gonna get a little bit of a few years after the first Blackfire Rebellion with Duncan Eggtails. That's kind of what the second Duncan Eggtail is about. Kind of. Yeah. Without spoiling.
I don't think it's spoiling.
I'm about to say I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's just
so there's a 3-part book series, short stories called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, kind of like Fire and Blood, except it's not told through a Maester's perspective. It's told through the perspective of Sir Duncan the Tall, and it's when he's just become a knight, and he's going to a tournament, and he runs into some little bald-headed bastard kid, and it turns out to be Aegon the Fifth, Maester Aemon's younger brother. And so some stuff goes down. He has to defend himself in a trial by 7. And so he has to rile up 6 other knights to fight against 7 other knights in a big battle at this tournament.
And it's going to be the next major series at HBO.
It's going to be the next major series at HBO. And the casting for Aegon and Dunk is perfect.
Yeah, just big, tall, lanky, yeah. So
I think they've revealed quite a bit of the casting for that now, haven't they?
Yeah, I think they did everybody, maybe.
Yeah.
All the big ones, at least.
Yeah.
This is definitely our Game of Thrones House of the Dragon episode. Obviously fresh off what has probably been the best episode of House of the Dragon yet. Dance of Dragons
it's up there with the best of the GOT episodes.
It was.
I don't know how people haven't liked the season, man. It's been all the political discourse that was missing from the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones. All the dialogue and
because people don't want political discourse, they want big dumb action, armies fighting each other.
We got that, and it wasn't good. We got it. It wasn't good in season 8.
You couldn't even fucking see it.
No,
it was fucking cheeks.
Yeah. So
fucking
no, this
bum
is
ass Jon Snow. Hey, I'm the prince that was promised. Never mind. I'm gonna scream at this undead dragon.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
We just found a way to. This is Eric's trigger.
I just rewatched, or my in-laws have been watching Game of Thrones, and they just got to Hardhome, so that was a really
because season 5 isn't that great. And Hardhome just comes in swinging out of nowhere. That's the best change from the book because Jon doesn't even go to Hardhome.
Yeah, it's a near perfect episode.
Battle of the Bastards coming up after that, and then that's kind of the peak right there. Battle of the Bastards, and then
at the end, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely calling this one the House of the Dragon Game of Thrones episode. That's
hot off the press.
Yeah. R.I.P. to the Queen that never was, Rhaenys. You were.
Hopefully, you've watched the episode by now.
Yeah.
If you haven't, fuck you.
Yeah, that's too bad for you.
I I think it was Nick and the Saints Block Party Discord. He's just like, how the fuck is Vhagar, the biggest dragon, sneaking up on people like this?
I don't know, but it's the same move, and it's like somebody said it's a Pokemon attack, and it says Vhagar uses sneak attack. It's successful.
Aemon over here having the biggest dragon as a fucking cheat code.
Yeah.
You see the size difference between Syraxes or Melis.
Melis,
yeah.
Versus Vhagar.
Melis was, I think, the second biggest dragon, up to that point, too. Well, at least that was currently living. Yep. So, yeah. So, back to Resident Evil a little bit. So, in addition to new Resident Evil coming, it warmed my little G heart that Capcom actually acknowledged Dino Crisis. I've never seen any public acknowledgement except for their voting surveys and things like that, where it's hey, happy anniversary, Dino Crisis. Wait, you guys know this exists. So it gives me hope.
They're teasing us.
I do think that there's something in development. It might be early, but I think there's something. Well, if the Jurassic Park game from Saban ends up being successful, I think they'll put it on the fast track to go ahead and get released.
They even published the results of those Capcom questionnaires, and it was Dino Crisis was 1 or 2 on the most requested IP to come back.
Onimusha was what game would you like to see a sequel of, or a brand new game, or a remake, or something like that, and that was number 1. So that it's just these games that people are telling Capcom, we really want you to make. I mean, the people have spoken, so there's no excuse now. So in addition to that, Jason Schreier, who again, if you don't follow him, he's probably the most famous journalist for video games in the world. He doesn't necessarily just cover video games, but he works for Bloomberg, and he did a story on WB and Suicide Squad, which I played and I liked. our guy Adam from Saints Block Party podcast will go to bat for this game every day of the week.
I don't care. I don't care.
There are dozens of you.
There are dozens of us. Was a $200 million loss for the company, which is insane. Also, I know a ton of people are pissed because it was one of what is the guy who played
Kevin
Batman's
Conroy.
name? Thank you. Kevin, it was one of Kevin Conroy's last portrayals as Batman. I think his last one is actually Multiverses, because him and Mark Hamill are both returning as the Joker and Batman in that, and I think that is actually the last one. So people are obviously pissed, and Batman kind of betraying his code. He kills people, but he's controlled by Brainiac in the game. It makes sense. So
the game's called Kill the Justice League. You can't bitch about killing the Justice League in that game.
or that they're killing. That's why they deserve to be killed in that instance. So anyway, Suicide Squad, huge loss. I think that you're gonna see gaming studios be very vigilant in staying away from games as a service if they haven't tried it. Or if they have tried it, rather. Because it seems like the ones who have tried are all failing, except for, our regular players. You've got Destiny 2. I mean, obviously, Helldivers is kind of an exception to that. Valorant,
it's lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, you have to get... So you have to have a good game. Because underneath all of the shit that, Destiny does, it has awesome gunplay. All of the powers are really unique. I've never played Valorant, but I have heard some really good things about it. Eric can probably speak more to why it is.
I'll fucking play it.
I won't play it without Eric. I'm not gonna play that shit by myself.
But then also obviously you capture it in MOBAs. Dota and League have been as popular as they have been for over a decade now. It's so hard to create a game that continually has those elements that you can continue to have people spend more and more money into and keep that gameplay fresh and fun for everybody involved.
It definitely doesn't help when you read that Jason Schreier piece on it. You can just see the sloppy development process. It was just mismanaged the whole time. So people didn't even know what they were doing. They kept on having to scrap stuff and start all over. It just was a mess the whole time. And it destroyed, of course, this article destroyed some of those narratives about why some people think the game failed, which it wasn't that, but...
Yeah, it's, and he has said multiple times, a lot of people have come out and said, well, they wanted to work on a Superman game. They didn't want to work on a Superman game. Suicide Squad was always their number one choice. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they, I think they would do well with a Superman game. I think that Rocksteady obviously, and Rocksteady is making a new MetaQuest Arkham game, so they're continuing that Batman lineage.
Kind of upset people with that because they want an actual Batman game,
a new Batman game,
not like a VR one.
A new Batman game with the Nemesis system. We're gonna get it. We're getting it in Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is one of the best technological breakthroughs that happened in gaming when it came out in Shadow of Mordor, when it debuted. And then they just
patented that shit and sat on it.
They used it really well in Shadow of Mordor. They even expanded on it because that's a good game too. And then they just were like, hey, you know what would be great with this? Nothing.
So, what I'm thinking is an amazing idea for them would be create a Batman Beyond game using that system, because Batman Beyond is an IP which has not been utilized. It's a way for you to retire Kevin Conroy's character as Batman, and it works. And the art style, the futuristic, gameplay, is very, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse kind of style. You could make it work. It would be awesome. The Nemesis system, I'm really hoping it does make a big comeback with this Wonder Woman game. because there's a few superhero games that have kind of been in the works and we haven't seen anything. Like, obviously they've got this. There's the EA Motive Iron Man game. There's the Captain America and Black Panther game. Insomniac obviously has had it leaked that they're working on a slew of superhero projects. So just
You got Blade coming.
Blade, yeah. Man, oh man, I had totally forgotten about that. And that whole setting, like in France, is awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna close out the show talking about a game that we all played for the first time this last week. Just barely actually launched, and that is the First Descendant. Some of the things that kind of drew us to the game initially so first guest on the show, Doug Cockle, and one of our more recent guests, Kirsty Gilmore, worked together on this project. So Kirsty is an incredible voice director, and Doug is Doug. He is just the man. And so that's obviously a bit of a draw in itself. But this is this the early access version right now that we're playing?
It's pretty much the preseason, but it is release.
Okay.
I kind of went into it knowing nothing because the only thing we had was like the beautiful trailer they gave us during the Summer Game Fest, and I was like, "Oh, that kind of looks interesting. I'll play it." And then it was like, "Oh yeah, it's coming out tomorrow." And it's free to play. I'm like, well, if it's free to play, I'll give it a shot. So downloaded it, spent so much time on it. So I probably sounds like I have the most time in the game at this point.
I would say that that's probably without any question. I will say gameplay wise, it reminds me a lot of like a third person Destiny, which is not a bad thing. Destiny, obviously I've sung its praises a little bit in this episode. It's a lot of fun. I think we all three ended up playing as Doug's character Ajax, who the character design, first of all, is pretty sweet.
Looks like a fucking super futuristic Viking. Looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, and the powers that you get, like I've enjoyed them like quite a bit. One thing, I guess one of my critiques so far is that like I don't understand what all of like the pickups are. Like I see all of these like little orbs and stuff on the ground. I still don't know what all of them do because I'll run out of ammo for one of my guns and then I'll be looking and I'm like, I don't know what this is that I'm supposed to be looking for. So some way to kind of like better identify that this matches with this gun, because Destiny does this they color code their ammo and
they do have that in First Descendant.
They do, but they don't explain it to you.
Yeah. There's they don't explain shit to you. You kind of just gotta play the story and it kind of just guides you along the tutorials of doing certain basic stuff like upgrading stuff, research, and they didn't even really explain like weapon infusement that well.
Yeah.
Which once I crafted my first ultimate weapon, you have to craft a special item to be able to infuse a weapon into it to get the item level up for it. So far I've unlocked 3 Descendants though, so I have Ajax, Bunny, which you get by just playing the story, and I think all of her stuff is 100% drop rate to actually craft her. And then the third girl, I think Freya, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Her stuff had like a 20% drop rate, so I had to replay some of the dungeons just to get a specific item. I think I ran through it like 10 times just to finally get it. But yeah, there's a lot of, I wouldn't say it's pay to win, it's pay to save time.
Progress. Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that I can get I switched to Bunny when I locked her. I'm level 40 on her, which is like the cap level, which I think you get like some sort of, they didn't explain it that well either, where once you reach level 40, you get this item that's supposed to like increase your module capacity so that you can put a buttload more shit in there, which that's where they really overwhelm you with, is they give you all those different modules that you can just put in your weapons and on your Descendant. Like, you kind of just have to like look where there's a red circle in your menu and it's like, okay, I unlocked something here, let's just equip some stuff and see what happens.
Yeah. I think some of my critiques so far lie around the lack of customization just around your character.
which it's all monetized.
Yeah.
And there's some bundles that are the equivalent of $100 to buy.
Yeah.
I get it's a free-to-play game, but $100 for a skin for a character?
Yeah. Would love like a create your own character option, because that obviously is a lot of fun, and again, an option in Destiny. Don't necessarily mean to keep making that comparison. Eric, what are your thoughts on the game so far, man?
I like it so far. I think it's pretty smooth for the most part. There's some jankiness to it, but the game, like the gunplay, is fine. I like that a lot. And then it's I always enjoy like those like super futuristic post-apocalyptic settings. Like I really like the like Destiny setting when it came out. I just got bored with Destiny 1 really quick.
Yeah.
You know, I quit. The first raid came out and I quit. I
haven't even gotten. I don't know what the end game is essentially. I'm not sure if it's just like farming, like those void battles. I'm not sure if you guys done the first or second like void battle yet. Those are basically the Colossi battle where you matchmake into a battle with a couple other players and you're fighting against like big boss enemies that have.
So it's like a strike almost, basically.
Yeah, but it's just you're only fighting that one boss. They do have those dungeon strikes that you go through, but then there's the Colossi battles, which take a while depending on how high of a level and how much damage people are doing. But you know, like you do it in the tutorial right by yourself by a very weakened Colossi, but it has like the destructible parts. You can grapple onto it and beat it if you want to, kind of like Shadow Colossus type stuff. But some of those later Colossi, because I've gotten up to the third one, it definitely gets harder as it goes on, and the game's a breeze in like the first areas, but you start.
That's where I've only played an hour and a half, so I'm still in the first area.
Okay.
I'm like in the last area of the.
Dash is in the end game now.
I would say I'm not even sure what the end game is at this point, and with the level cap being 40. Like I'm trying to figure out, do I switch to another character and level them up to 40? The way you really can level up your character is by doing these all secondary objective things or something. Like there's just like a wave based mission that you can do that just they throw so many enemies at you, and you'll level up your weapon proficiency and your character a shit ton just by doing it one or two times. I mean, it's good. I feel like, you know, obviously they time gate or make stuff harder to find if you're a free-to-play player, but it is still accessible. You know what items are going to give you what you need to craft a specific descendant, so you can farm them if you want to, but some of those items might have like a 1% drop rate to even get the material you need. So it's going to be a lot for some of these characters, I think.
Yeah. So it's definitely a game that we're going to keep monitoring. We're going to keep playing it a little bit more just over the next few weeks and see if maybe they continue to add more content, or maybe see if it's just something that's going to kind of fizzle away. I mean, obviously we'll continue to watch some of those player numbers. One last thing also wanted to hit on. Obviously we have had the opportunity to interview both Mike Laidlaw and Jonathan Brousseau on the show. They're both members of the development team over at Yellowbrick Games. They are accepting applications right now for content creators, for a bunch of different folks who are looking to partner with them, kind of similar to how we have partnered with Rookery Interactive for A Good Night's Rest, which is also going to be having a developer stream coming up really soon. But we wanted to make sure shout out Yellowbrick Games, because obviously they have their new game Eternal Strands coming, which looks so awesome. I really can't say how excited we are. We may or may not be attempting to be partnering with them as well. Wink, wink. But
maybe,
obviously,
sort of.
Yeah, we'll if we have more to share, we definitely will. But I think that's a really solid spot for us to go ahead and top it off. Do you guys have anything else you want to dive into?
Nope. No, that was it.
Perfect little return for us. So again, as always, we want to thank everybody for checking out the show. We will be back next week, and thanks everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.